brands can provide simplified cross-border shipping experiences to convert more international shoppers into loyal customers. Through our DDP shipping program, which is powered by FlavorCloud, you can prevent long delivery times and surprise fees for your customers, which makes the international shopping and shipping experience easier for everyone. So before we get started, I wanted to get a few housekeeping items out of the way. We will be asking you all a few questions throughout the presentation to get a better understanding of where you are in your journey to expanding internationally. So if you are interested in participating, you can go ahead and scan the QR code on the screen or go to slido.com and enter the code DDP. I'll leave it up for a few more seconds, but if you miss it now, no problem. We'll have it throughout the presentation. Also, please make sure to drop in any questions that you have in the chat, and we will try to answer as many as we can throughout or at the end of the webinar. And if we are not able to get to your question, we'll make sure to reach out directly after. All right, so now that that's out of the way, I'm excited to introduce the panelists for today. My name is Brooke Starling. I am the Product Marketing Specialist here at ShipBob. And then we also have Jordan Russell joining from the ShipBob team. He is our manager in global sales and expansion. And then we also have Drew Adair, who is joining from FlavorCloud, and he is the partner manager. So we have a packed agenda today. Jordan will start us off talking about how to grow globally with ShipBob, some shipping solutions for global expansion, and then the benefits of DDP. Then we'll pass the mic over to Drew while he'll talk about ShipBob's DDP program, which is powered by FlavorCloud. And then we'll finish up the presentation talking about a success story and then answer any questions and discuss next steps. So with that, Jordan, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Brooke. Good afternoon, y'all. Or if you're joining from maybe the UK or maybe somewhere else, good evening, good morning, wherever you're from. We're really glad that you're here for us today to talk about DDP. So first off, kind of talking about like why ShipBob and why globally. So when we look at ShipBob, we have 30 plus global fulfillment centers all around the world. This includes 27 in the United States, 2 in Canada, 1 in UK, 1 in Poland, and 1 in Australia. And we're always expanding every year over year. We have done new expansions into B2B fulfillment, retail drop shipping, custom packaging, gift notes, you name it. Here at ShipBob, we're going to help you figure it out for your small business. And then most importantly here recently, worldwide shipping from any fulfillment center around the world, which is really big news for us. Used to be, if you were in a region, you could only be in that region. So for example, if I was in the UK, I could only ship in the UK. But now being in the UK, you could ship anywhere else in the world. So big for ShipBob and big for you all as well. Next slide. Cool, perfect. So everyone, we kind of did this Slido at first. If you missed Brooke's introduction on how to get into Slido, you can join at slido.com, #DDP, or scan that QR code. And the first question we're going to ask today is, how important is it for you to expand your business internationally? So we'll give you all some time to kind of put this in here and we can kind of see. And as you notice, live results right off the bat. So we'll give this a couple minute or so and we'll see what we can kind of figure out. Cool. All right. I see a big 5 coming in with a 4. Right. Oh, I see some people putting in the chat. Okay, 2. All right. Okay. Got it. All right. Ooh. All right. 5's taken off. Let's see if we can't get 15 people to respond since we've got at least 66 attendees here. All right, another 5 in the chat. Awesome. Okay, like to hear that. Another 5 in the chat. Great. All right, perfect. All right, I've seen a lot of chat ones with the 5, so I think we're going to hear this pretty well that, you know, expanding your business internationally is really important. One thing I'll say around this, and I say this probably almost every webinar that we've done from a global standpoint, is back in 2008, President Obama was at the G20 summit, and he was speaking to us as Americans and speaking to us from a background of business and commerce and saying, if we don't look outside of our borders, we're not looking at 94% of the world's population. So when you look at yourself as just being, let's say, shipping domestically, whatever it is in your home region, you're really limiting yourself to the world and commerce in general. and you're limiting yourself to expanding your business and making more sales. We hear the worries of a recession's coming, this is happening, but one way to help yourself get around a recession or buffer for it is expanding yourself globally, opening up your website globally and selling to people all around the world. This is a great slide where we talk about going global. Cross-border e-commerce is becoming essential to grow in your business. 70% of customers make international purchases. When an international purchase order comes in, usually the average order value is 17 to 20% higher than a domestic order value. And we'll kind of go into that a little later of why that happens, but it offers you an opportunity to really grow your brand. And when we look at it, 60% growth when a brand offers international shipping. My experience, I worked at UPS for the past 5 years before coming to ShipBob, and I worked with a lot of small and medium-sized businesses. And really, we did see their sales, their revenue expand as we opened up their website, opened up their products to the rest of the world. So I can tell you from experience working with many different customers across the country, it does help to grow global, no matter what size of business you are. Next slide. Cool. So more big numbers. Everyone loves percentages, and you're like, all right, great, thanks. We love this. Well, good. Because when we look at these things, we're telling you that there's definitely potential for your business as you grow globally. Another number on here is 22% cross-border e-commerce is projected to account for in 2022. Yes, we're in the year 2022. So 22% of cross-border e-commerce is projected to this year based upon our experiences. This is huge revenue growth for you to tap into. If you've noticed your domestic volume going stale, this is a perfect opportunity to hear today to listen to how to get your business into other regions of the world with a very fast, simple process. Next slide, please. Perfect. All right, so I'm not going to take credit for this. I'm a person who likes to give credit where credit is due. Drew actually came up with this, but I think this is a perfect example. I'm not much of a flyer, so just take this with a grain of salt. But when we think about going internationally, there's usually two options from your domestic facilities. You either go DDU versus DDP. DDU is delivered duties unpaid, and DDP is delivered duties paid. So when you look at it, DDU is great. I'm going to be able to, standard check-in. I'm going to take off my shoes, put it in the bucket, hop on that airplane, and I'm going to get to my destination. Is it going to take more time? Time equals money. So is it going to take a little bit more money for me to do it? Yes. But when I look at a pre-check, I got everything up front. I roll on through with my case right past everybody else waiting in line, and I've saved myself some time and in turn some money. So when we look at things, time can equal money. So Drew gave a good example here of why, nothing wrong with standard airport security. To be honest, y'all, that's kind of how I travel. But what's even better is having that pre-check where you can skip everything, go past the other people waiting in line because you've already done all the TSA pre-screening. Next slide. Perfect. So we kind of talked about this. DDU, delivered duties unpaid. So in the future, when you hear me say DDU, just remember this means it's unpaid. And this is a great way to dip your toe into the international waters. It's a great way to get started. If you have low value items, it's easy to get started with DDU because a lot of times when a shipment goes DDU, it's going to local postal carriers make that in delivery. So it's easier to execute. Little to no problems with duties and taxes because it's being delivered by a local postal service more often than not when going DDU. And like I said, it's more common for those merchants who have an average order value that's pretty low. So when we're talking about this, we're talking like maybe I have an order value of $20, $25 at checkout. DDU might be a pretty good option for me at that point. But if I have a customer that puts in 2 items, 3 items, I've easily gone over that order value. And at that point, duties and taxes could be accessed. So some cons of this, it is super slow. DDU can take very long time to travel around the world. The biggest example I like to give is if you're shipping from the US to Australia, you're looking at a good 20 to 28 days for delivery. It's very difficult from that perspective of that time in transit. People are waiting, and you're probably also getting either emails or phone calls from customers asking, where's my order? Or as we call them, Wizmo calls. So they're asking like, where is it? And you're like, well, I shipped it out, it'll get there. So, it's not an ideal customer experience from that perspective. And then also, it's not an ideal experience if when it does make the delivery, if that carrier is knocking on their door saying, hey, I know you purchased this, but I need another $50 to make this delivery in duties and taxes. Like, Imagine if that was you, how upset or how bad experience that would be. And then obviously they're going to come back to you as the business telling you like, hey, this happened, and you're not maybe going to get a very good review. So some cons there with going DDU. Next slide, Brooke. So now we're going to go into DDP and what we're all here today to learn about, and that's Delivery Duty Unpaid. You can scale your business globally with ShipBob's DDP solution powered by FlavorCloud. Why? It's easy to execute. Drew's going to go over here this in a few minutes about how quick and easy we can get you set up to go DDP. It's a great customer experience. Why? So if I'm an international customer coming to your website, I'm going to pick all my items that I want to order, put it into the cart. When I go to checkout, I'm going to see a duties and tax calculation, a shipping cost calculation, and I'm going to pay it all up front. I have no surprises upon entry into my country. UPS, FedEx, whoever's making that end delivery is not knocking on my door asking for more money. And then most common, we see a higher average order volume. Why do you think we're going to see that? Well, because international customers are smart. They know there's going to be duties and taxes. They can see it in your shopping cart. So they're going to play around with it and maybe add a few more items that they weren't going to add before, because they're like, well, I'd rather just pay duties and taxes once. Let's see what else I can order that's not going to increase that duty and tax calculation higher than it should be. Some cons to it, because there's always cons in life. Everything's not a pro. There's some cons of more expensive upfront. So sometimes merchants going to see a more cost approach at checkout. The shipping's going to be a little bit more expensive. There may be sticker shock by the duties and taxes. But at the end of the day, they're going to have a much better merchant customer experience because they've seen it all up front. They don't have to worry about some surprises. They know that you're taking care of them. They know when they place checkout, nothing else is going to be taken from them, and they're going to receive their delivery, A, much faster, and B, without any surprises when it enters. The only other con with DDP is it's just slower than in-country fulfillment. So here at ShipBob, we have global sites all over the world. And we usually talk to you about like going to a global site. A lot of times that's not possible for all businesses. And maybe it's not the right approach for your business at all. So then we come in with this service here of Delivery Duties Paid, which gives you an opportunity to A, expand your business globally, have a way of having a great merchant experience, but then also at the same time as you're growing, getting to see where your merchants are coming from. Getting to see like, hey, I thought I was going to expand Australia because that's where I thought all my customers were coming from. And in reality, once you've done DDP, you see, well, dang, 80% of my orders are coming from the UK. I never thought of like maybe opening in a global facility there. Well, with DDP, you've tested the waters, you found where your real market lies, and you were making sales and revenue all along the way. So it's a really great approach. We've got a nice little quote here from one of our merchants who've done DDP. ShipBob's international shipping via FlavorCloud allows us to ship DDP worldwide immediately and without hassle. Since implementing DDP shipping, we've seen a lift in revenue of almost 25%. So this is from one of our merchants, Paul Jackson, co-founder of Animal House Fitness. We'll go into a little bit more depth of a success story at the end with them, but just letting you know by doing DDP here at ShipBob, you're going to help increase your revenue and lift it 25%, maybe even more. That was just one merchant's example. Next slide. Perfect. So some DDP shipping benefits, international growth and conversion. We've talked about this. Sell to more customers worldwide. You can avoid over 20 plus additional fees typically accessed by the carriers because of the DDP shipping benefits we offer. We've already talked about an increase in revenue, way more conversion rate. So 3 times the average on international orders. Once again, I told you 17 to 20% higher average order value. I explained how that kind of happens. Someone comes into the cart, they're going to put more and more items into it. And over at the day, it's just a great experience. There's no surprise fees upon delivery. There's a streamlined checkout, branded tracking. You're saving on duties and taxes. You streamline your operations. I mean, at this point, I think everyone on this call just wants to sign up for DDP. I mean, I know I personally would. So here, we're going to go to the next slide, and we're going to kind of talk about how to get these things moving. So we have one more question before we pass it over to Drew. So if you didn't do the Slido, once again, as a reminder, go to slido.com. You have that little hashtag, or just scan that QR code on your screen. We're all familiar with QR codes now. 10 years ago, we all thought these things were a thing of the past, and then COVID hit us, and now we all have QR codes, and we're scanning every day. So give that a scan. We have a question of why are you hesitant about offering international shipping? So go ahead and answer that question, and we'll give it some time, and we'll wait for people to respond. And I think some people jumped ahead on the Slido question because I see we have some other stuff in here. One person said, I'm not. Love to hear that. Oh, second person like, I'm not. I mean, this is what I want to hear. I want to hear these things of like where you're not hesitant, because it's not meant to be scary. So I do see some things on here of lack of understanding of total cost. We're going to talk about that here in a second. Custom import fees. Sounds complicated and scary. Yep. 100%. I heard this all the time when I worked at UPS on the international side of things. It does sound scary, but with partners like ShipBob and FlavorCloud here, it's not meant to be. And we're going to show you here in a second why it's not. Oh, okay, that's a good one. Shipping to Mexico is ugly, but I'm ready to try. Mexico is a very difficult country. If you've ever flown into Mexico, I'd love to give this example. If you've ever flown into Mexico, and as you're going through customs to go to wherever you're going, Cancun, Puerto Vallarta, you walk up to the customs agent, security guard, and they have you push a button, and it turns red or green. If it's green, you can continue on, and they're not going to check your bag. If it randomly turns red, they're checking your bag, and they're going through it, and you're probably going to have another 30 minutes waiting in line while they check it. So what do you think happens when your packages go to Mexico? Same thing. Red or green light determines if the package is going to go. A little bit different here is your package may sit there for a day or two, maybe longer before someone inspects it. So yes, Mexico is very difficult. We understand it. We'll kind of maybe talk to you on a one-on-one basis about that. Because I have no idea what duties will be charged. Perfect. This is great answering what we're going to get to next. How to add it to my checkout page. Man, you guys have some great questions here. Great why you're hesitant to start. And really here in a second, we're going to go over to Drew, who's going to walk you through the rest of this. So Brooke, next slide. And Drew, over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Jordan. And hello, everyone. This is Drew there from the FlavorCloud team. I don't want anyone getting confused with my hat. It's just a really cool hat, and we love our partnership with ShipBob. So this is Drew on the FlavorCloud team. A lot of great answers and a lot of great info. Jordan, thank you so much. And pretty much, you know, we got a lot there. And I kind of like to ask people, what is one phrase that comes to mind when they think about international shipping? You've all thrown a bunch of complexities and questions in there, but if y'all have any phrases, feel free to type them in. We might end up using them. Diane, that's a great one. A nightmare. I love that. There's a reason that companies like FlavorCloud can exist. And the reason is international shipping. You can hit next, Brooke. It's just really, really hard. That's how I like to say it. It's the reason we're able to be here. It's the reason that we have over 70 people on this call. It is a hard thing to figure out. And that comes from a bunch of different reasons, which we have a couple up here. You've already been able to highlight a few of them, but there's a bunch of pieces with how do you stay compliant with your taxes and your trade. Carrier operations are pretty significantly different from what you see shipping domestically. Customer experience and customer service is certainly a drop compared to what the Amazon experience that we see here in the US and elsewhere. And then also you deal with, Jordan was right, you generally have a higher level of knowledge from your end customers that when you're shipping internationally, but not always. Some folks are buying internationally for the first time, and they have those expectations of the 2-day delivery or just a seamless process. And so there is a bunch of different pieces that just come together to make international shipping really, really hard. And we're going to get into all of that today. We're going to talk about the different pieces of what makes up an international DDP shipment. And then we're also going to talk about the partnership that we've put into place with ShipBob, because I have a saying that if you're not partnering in 2022, you're not winning in 2022. And being able to go together with the best fulfillment, best-in-class fulfillment with best-in-class international shipping, I think really sets everyone on this call up to really be able to succeed against the competition. So moving on to the next slide, we're going to talk first about, you know, you probably all are shipping already domestically, and domestic shipping, even though it sometimes can be complex, is far, far simpler than international shipping. You've got your product, it goes from a warehouse to a carrier, potentially to a distribution center, onto another carrier, and then finally on your end destination. But what we're going to focus on today is that bottom blue piece, and I think there's a little circle that comes up as well, of these different pieces. And the equation here is one that very few have been able to figure out and being able to scale. And that's something we can really bring to you today. But everything from getting it out of your warehouse onto a carrier, through customs, into another carrier, and then to your final international destination. There's a lot of complexity that's associated with all of that. And so we're going to jump into all of that just right now. And so moving on to the next slide, what are the different components of actually shipping internationally? And we're going to dive into each of these a little bit more depth, but at a high level, your first piece is the duties, taxes, and fees, separate from shipping something within the same country. A lot of those are driven by your HS codes. And then with that, you are able to determine how we get items through customs clearance, and working with someone like us, we're able to do that pretty quickly for you. Jordan already did a great job of overviewing DDP and DDU. And as an avid traveler who's always on the move, I think that the TSA example is a perfect example of that. Do you want to have that more clunky experience if you're not using it as often, or do you want to go with kind of the seamless experience of being able to slip right on through? And then finally, what type of shipping services are you able to use to ship internationally? So starting with duties and taxes and fees, we actually call this in our industry landed cost. And so there's the three different pieces that come up with that. And these are going to be a separate line item at checkout time versus your shipping fees. And so the three components of the landed cost, first being the duties and then the tax, both of those are specific to in-country and going to be determined mostly by your product type, which we will get into in just a second with how we determine what that is. And then finally, there's also an additional piece. Many of you, I'm sure, are familiar with carrier fees. There are specific fees for shipping internationally, like a DDP filing fee and other things like that. And the problem with these costs are they are so dynamic. So unlike being able to calculate a domestic shipping and it be pretty much the same all the time and be able to plan for it, these are changing constantly with the different markets. If we have a port that's backed up because of COVID staffing shortages, these fees can increase on the spot. And so being able to try to go in there and do that yourself and stay on top of it all the time, it's pretty much a full-time job. And that's why something like a FlavorCloud that's able to be able to constantly update all of that on our side and be able to take care of that for you without you having to think about that, that's really where we succeed. We want you to be able to focus on growing your business by doing all the international things. And that's why we're able to kind of take over that whole piece for you and really serve as your experts in your white glove solution. So that's landed costs. Moving on next, a lot of landed costs are driven by what we're going to get into next. And so first, a real quick question in the group, feel free to throw it in the chat. We won't spend too much time on this, but I have a 6-digit code here on the screen. Any ideas what this is? Feel free to throw it in the chat. Looks like Diane and Jennifer are all over this. And so they know pretty well here. Oh, wow. Man, okay, I guess I got to come up with some harder questions moving forward. We got a smart group here. So yes, a lot of right answers on here. You can see this is a 6-digit HS code, and this is actually an HS code for men's cotton pants. And so this specific code is going to specifically classify that we know that we're shipping men's cotton pants. And so on the next slide here, what we are getting into now is what's called harmonized systems codes. And you can really think of this as like a global license plate for each of your products. This is a worldwide system of classification for different products. And each code, the 6-digit codes, which is what most countries and most e-commerce platforms require, is 6 digits, the first two being the chapter. And so as you can see on the bottom of the screen here, we've got the actual HS code for coffee. I am a avid coffee drinker, and so I wanted to include one that I'm familiar with, but this just breaks down how specific we can get into the different products. So the first 2 digits are for your chapter, and then the next after that is your heading, and then finally the subheading. And so combining all 6 of those numbers together, that is how we're able to determine what the duties and taxes are for a specific product and a specific shipment. All right, we can go on to the next slide. And then the final piece of this equation is the different shipping services. And so like you see with domestic, there's typically 2 different offerings. I'm going to break down each for the group here. First being the express shipping. this is really what you can think of that white glove door-to-door experience. This is like a DHL or a UPS or a FedEx, going to pick up from the facility and then deliver all with one carrier right to the end door. This is very popular for those time-sensitive and high-value products. So if you have an AOV of average order value of anything over $100, typically express, you're going to see a lot more interest in that. This is also a faster service, typically 4 to 6 days from the US to the UK, which is a top market for us. So that's what you can expect from a ShipBob facility into an end customer in the UK. So that's going to be pretty standard offering. With that higher level of service and that faster service time, you are going to see a higher price. But for folks that really want to have that high level of visibility throughout the process, an express offering is something that people are very, very happy with. We also have a standard shipping option, which is also industry standard. And this is more economical. And the reason it is you're able to actually send to a consolidation facility and then use economics of scale to actually be able to ship into specific lanes. And so with that, even though it is cheaper, it is faster, but unfortunately wow, I got all tied up there. It is slower service, but it is also a cheaper. And so for folks that have lower value AOVs or a lot of customers that are incredibly price sensitive, a standard shipping option is a really solid option. Key to note for FlavorCloud is that even with standard, and it's important to be aware with other services, some standard offerings will be an injection into a postal system. FlavorCloud is not that. We only use a parcel-only network. And so with that, you're going to get, even with standard shipments, a higher level of shipment visibility and the ability to actually see all the key shipping milestones along the process. You can see there as well, about 8 to 12 days to the UK, and we average about 6 to 7 days up to Canada from the US. So those are just some standard offerings there for that. And we can move on to the next piece. So that's a lot of different stuff. And you might be asking yourself, well, why in the heck would I want to ship internationally? Jordan already did a pretty good job at explaining some of the benefits of shipping with internationally, but I think there's 3 key ones to focus on. The first being the rest of the market is doing it. Jordan already presented some great statistics on where the market is heading with this, and you don't want to be left behind. It might be hard, but finding someone that you can work with and feel comfortable with is really key. The next one that often gets overlooked, because expanding internationally often is seen as risky, but we actually encourage people to look at it as a form of risk mitigation. There are a lot of opportunities there to minimize your risk and diversify your portfolio as you grow and you go forward. And then finally, it's an exponential growth opportunity. There really is no better lever you can pull to tap into other markets and grow your customer base and grow your revenue. So we're going to get into, because Jordan already did a great job on 1 and 3, we're going to specifically jump into number 2 a little bit. And for this one, I like to say, you would never want to take 80, 90% of your revenue from 1 or 2 customers, right? And so why would you want to be doing the same thing with taking your revenue from 1 or just 2 countries? And so think about that a little bit. But while it might seem risky to ship internationally, being able to offer a service to where you're able to actually go ship first before even moving product into a country, it's really, really valuable that you're able to test those different things out. But risk can come in a lot of different forms. And just think about what's going on in the world today with unrest, with supply chain shortages, with labor shortages. There are different geographical, cultural, political, economic factors that are in play here, that it's very important that you're able to offer your product to not just 1 or 2 markets. And so being able to ship internationally really clamps down on that. In addition to that, you might have a very seasonally focused product. If you sure, you can sell into Florida and California all year long, but what about other markets that have their summer seasons at a different period of the year? Being able to ship internationally very easily that way. And then finally, shifting consumer expectations. These are not generally at a just a global level. Of course, we're going to have different consumer expectations across various markets around the globe, and being able to offer international shipping allows you to tap into each and every one of those. Moving forward with this, now really the meat of, we've been talking about it a lot, international, the value of everything. How can we go ahead and do this? How can we ship internationally? And so we're going to kind of talk about the different ways that you can go about doing that. Obviously, FlavorCloud and ShipBob, we're biased towards one of these three options, but we're going to get into the specifics on each. And so moving to the next slide, you can see the three different key options, and we're going to start left and move right. Very common. Everyone on this call is incredibly entrepreneurial, to do things on your own. That is a totally okay way to start. I'll say if you are resource strapped, or if you really want to put your focus on just developing your product more or marketing your product more, doing it yourself can be incredibly time consuming. Whether that's filling out customs documentations and then shipping that, then sending those to carriers, or working on the customer success side of actually filing claims with carriers and other things of that nature. Do it yourself is going to pose a challenge there for you for that. And you typically, it's harder to scale for sure for that way. And so the next thing we see a lot of folks do is they go and they look to a carrier for a single sourced partner. That is a totally okay way to do that. But with that, think about it going back to risk. Why would you put all your eggs into one basket? So when you do a partner with limited flexibility, you're going to have to be sticking to their rates, to their terms of trade, to their team, all of those different types. It's certainly better than on the far left, but you certainly have a lot of other options as well. And so that's kind of the mid-range. And then finally, the white glove piece. You work with someone like an aggregator like ourselves. We have over 300 carriers in our network. We handle all of the claims filing and the tax filing on your behalf, and we're able to take all of that off of your plate so you can focus on growing your product, developing your product, and growing your business in other ways. So we have, of course, our bias. We like to push folks to the right side of the screen there for that. And so moving on to the next slide, we're going to focus specifically on the ShipBob FlavorCloud DDP program, because we really feel that this is that far right side that you're able to really not think about it, set it and forget it. And we're going to do the hard, heavy lifting of shipping internationally. And so with the FlavorCloud ShipBob DDP program, currently you're able to ship from over 10 warehouses in the ShipBob's US network to over 200 countries worldwide. We're very excited to say that we are getting very close to being able to also offer outbound shipments from the United Kingdom, from the European Union, and then hoping to have Canada and Australia outbound later this year as well. So very excited about all of that. We've seen great success so far with US outbound. The program started in December of last year, and we're up already over 45 merchants and shipping to over 200 countries all across the world, and all different types of products. One of my favorite being the Animal House fitness products, at-home workout products. You can see on the right-hand side of the screen, when you go to check out and you're using the FlavorCloud and ShipBob solution, this is a Shopify store, but we're able to do this for not just Shopify as well. What you're able to do is you enter in your HS codes, your country of origin, all those different pieces. What the FlavorCloud technology is actually able to do is calculate not only the shipping rates, which you can see there on the bottom left in the little square, but also the duties, taxes, and fees, those landed costs that we talked about. So being able to calculate both of those at time of checkout to really level set with your customers, but not only being able to calculate, because that's one piece of the equation, but actually being able to collect that at time of checkout provides you with that opportunity to do the DDP shipping. And it provides you the opportunity to do the DDP shipping without any guesswork. These rates and these landed costs are dynamic and will update with any restrictions or surcharges or anything else that's within the system. And so you take all the guesswork out of this and are able to present this at time of checkout. And so we think it's a really, really unique offering that most folks are not able to offer to their customers. And what we have seen, and Jordan already alluded to this, but is having these on here, you really drive up trust and you drive up conversion rates. These are the DDP options. You can do a combination of DDU and DDP. We are obviously biased towards DDP because it removes all of the surprises from the customers. But it is an excellent offering that we're able to offer across all different product types. And you could come to us without ShipBob, and you wouldn't get the discounted pricing or dedicated service team, all those different pieces. And that's really what sets us apart as well. We have a dedicated customer success team that will work with our carrier network on your behalf. So you're not on the phone with carriers trying to file return claims or understand where your shipments are or anything of that nature. And so that white glove experience, we really do value that, and we really do try to live up to that each and every day. And then the final piece on here, which is very exciting for everyone, that there's a lot of excitement in the chat I can see about wanting to get this going immediately. And that's music to my ears. We've worked very hard with the ShipBob team to have our integration be seamless to the point where if you are a Shopify merchant, you can be live shipping with FlavorCloud via ShipBob in as little as an hour. We can get that all set up for you, get you set up with our team, and you can be shipping within as little as an hour. For other non-Shopify customers, we also do offer a BigCommerce app that we can help with, a WooCommerce plugin, and then also we have open-facing APIs if you want to be able to present duty and tax calculations within your custom cart. We're able to do all of that, and I'm happy to speak offline with anybody that has any questions related specifically to those. But the whole point being here is we want this to be as easy as possible for you, and we see this as a massive opportunity for growth. And we've set this up to really help you succeed. And so that's the program in a nutshell. We don't want to get into too many of the nuts and bolts, as we want you to have a conversation with the team to get you set up. But that's kind of how you can think of FlavorCloud there with that. With that, I believe I'll turn it back over to Jordan to talk about a success story we've had with one of our first merchants in the program. And they've been so successful, and I'm excited to hear him talk about it. So thank you very much.
Cool. Thanks, Drew. Thanks for that. I think we definitely did answer a lot of excitement from the chat here, and a lot of those questions we'll go through all again. I know you answered a lot, but we'll make sure we hit them all up. Before we get into that, we're going to do a success story, because that's what makes things impactful for you as the customer. And we've talked about them throughout this presentation. The reason being is they are a perfect example of how you can start and expand your business and open your business globally, and then to figure out where you can then expand your business into from an in-country standpoint to increase sales even more. So I'm just going to highlight a few things. We don't have to read this whole thing, but I want to point out some of these things that are in blue. And that first one is we wanted to find a partner who could assist with global expansion and growing our business internationally. Drew hit that on the head. You can go and do it, DIY this yourself, do it yourself. But when it comes down to it, looking for a partner that can help take a lot of the stress off of you so you can focus on other things of your business, whether that's marketing or coming up with new products, and you leave this hard part to us of getting your product there, helping at that landed cost calculator. We've talked about this as well, using this solution to test out international shipping from a U.S. fulfillment center. It was a perfect solution for them. And then for them specifically, they were able to see which countries around the world were specifically their product being purchased more from. And for them, that specific country was just to the neighbor to the north of us. And now they use our in-country fulfillment inside of Canada. And so now they're fulfilling for Canadian merchants domestically, and they've taken out completely that duty and tax worry for that in merchant. But they did that because they recognized that with using DDP, they saw a huge potential in the Canadian marketplace. So when we really look at this as a holistic picture, we want you guys to recognize that, DDU, we've talked about this, is that toe in the water. That's your standard check-in when you're going to get on an airplane. DDP, you got that TSA pre-check. You're really expanding, you're going great, really testing out the waters around the world to see where your product can go. And then, of course, we have the in-country fulfillment with ShipBob as well. So we're bringing to you here at ShipBob not only, a DDU offering, just getting yourself out there, but taking you all the way where your business is growing globally into different regions around the world. So with that, we're going to take some time here and we're going to answer some of these questions in the chat. Brooke or Fran, do you guys want to read us one of the questions? How do you want to handle it? Or do you want us just to go through it ourselves?
Hey, yeah, I can read out some of the questions that we have. So let's jump right in. So Ray asked, regarding HS codes, does FlavorCloud support fully compliant codes? Example, digits, Canadian codes.
Great question. Yes, we can help with that. If you're on Shopify, only accepts 6 digits. But if you have other options beyond that, we have a whole global compliance team that can help you determine the exact code that you need for your product to not only be compliant, but also make sure that you are charging the right amount at time of checkout. Hope that answers that.
Perfect. Thanks, Drew. We have one more question around that. What is the difference between commodity code and HS code?
It's a great question. Key in our industry and what we're using, a commodity code, you're going to see that more on the manufacturing side. And for HS code, that's going to be more of what different customs offices in different countries all around the world are going to be looking at. So really for our purposes and for shipping cross-border, you're going to want to focus specifically on the HS codes.
Awesome. Thanks. All right, so we have a question from Victor. He said, as per my own experience, when my company shipped the goods to the customers who are located in Morocco and Cyprus by DHL, the shipments were still withheld by the local custom, even though I chose DDP. How can ShipBob tackle this situation to ensure that the custom clearance is smooth?
Cool. That's a really good question. So Victor, without knowing your product, there could be a lot of things where something can get held up at customs. Just because we send something DDP doesn't mean that customs not going to hold a package to make for additional documentation. They're not going to hold that doesn't mean they're not going to hold the package to check to see if there's anything in it that shouldn't be. So when looking at this, you had that experience with DHL. A lot of other things that come along with it. Different carriers will have different experiences in different countries. I see Drew shaking his head, and you can also recognize with that. So without knowing specifically what your product is, there can be a lot of different reasons to it. And we can look to it together with ShipBob. So you bring it to us, we'll look into these customs codes, we'll take it to FlavorCloud, be like, is there something here we should be doing better from an HS code thing that's not going to get it held up at customs? Is there something additional that needs to go with the commercial invoice, like an ingredient list or some sort of certification? And we can help you make sure that's on the package or sent electronically as well to make sure with that clearance.
Yeah, and just to add on there too, I think going back to the idea of the 3 different tiers of doing this, working with someone like ourselves, if you do have those holdups, it's not going to be a reactive measure to where DHL is reaching out to you or your customer. They're actually going to be reaching out, if you work with FlavorCloud, to our customer success team who has those deep relationships with each of the different carriers. And then we're going to be able to work with you directly so it doesn't even have to get to your end customer, and keep that process as seamless as possible. At the same time, great point on the single carrier piece of it. DHL is excellent and they ship all over the world, but they're not always the answer for everywhere. And an area like a Morocco or Cyprus, you might run into some additional issues. And that's where the value of having over 300 carriers in the network really comes in my opinion.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you. All right. So can you guys answer how all this has changed with UK and Brexit? Jennifer said we pulled out of UK shipping because it seemed too messy.
Yeah, no, and I don't blame you one bit, Jennifer. And we've seen a lot of folks that did that, and the moving of the goalposts and everything else like that. It's very confusing and very hard to stay on top of when you have a million other things to do. VAT filings and all of those different pieces. Working with someone like ourselves in this partnership, if you're not going to be in ShipBob's facilities, either in the UK or EU, or if you're going to just be in one and not the other, what you're able to do with shipping with us, we are actually a registered marketplace and a registered international one-stop shop. And so what that allows us to do is not only calculate the VAT tax, but also file those VAT taxes and remit those VAT taxes on your behalf as the importer of record. And that takes all of that headache away from you. And so I would say to you, if you had strong success in the market before pulling out, definitely talk to us about getting back in there, because the UK is our number 2 market currently with the program, only behind Canada, and with EU being number 3 as well. So the answer is yes, we can help solve that for you.
Awesome. So Victor asked, how can we know the estimated fulfillment cost to ship the goods to the customers in different countries?
Great question. I can take it, Jordan, if you're comfortable with it. But if you're working with the FlavorCloud program, those shipping rates are inclusive of all of your charges there for that. And so it is the combined charge of the fulfillment and the shipping included in there. And when you get billed from ShipBob, you're going to have your invoices, which has just the fulfillment fee. And then for international orders, you'll have a separate line item for any international duties, taxes, and fees as well. And so the point of all that being, it's dynamic, and you're able to pass that directly on to your customers. I will say that there's an opportunity, this gets a little more in the details, but if you want to offer free shipping, or if you want to offer free shipping over a certain amount, or flat rate shipping, our app that we will get you access to has business rules all set up that you can set all of that to be automatic and pass through seamlessly.
Cool. Drew, that brings up a really good point. That was spot on. You talk about having a separate invoice line for duties and taxes. So a question that came in here was, who pays the taxes to the government initially? So can you kind of talk through how that works, and then how it comes back billed through them through ShipBob?
Yes, great question. So when you present a landed cost calculation at time of checkout, that is a guaranteed landed cost. FlavorCloud is actually guaranteeing that landed cost. That way, if for any reason it were to go up, FlavorCloud's going to eat that difference, not you, not your customer, nothing of that nature. We actually are the ones remitting or filing or paying taxes on your behalf. And then how it comes back for you is you'll have a separate line item on your ShipBob invoices. That's another key point, is there is no charges from FlavorCloud. It's all handled the same way you already do as a ShipBob customer. It is just a separate line item on that specific order for international duties, taxes, and fees. But we, as FlavorCloud, are filing on your behalf as the importer of record.
Great. Thank you, Drew. So Vanessa asked, we create our international orders manually. Example, Shopify draft order, so we can manually calculate the shipping fee. Our products come in various large shipping boxes, not standard size boxes. Can DDP be calculated at checkout when customers complete their order in this case?
Great question. Yes, we ship items of all sizes. Everything up to picture frames and things of that nature, all the way down to small earrings and whatnot. We're able to ship it all. This is a great example. They have really heavy products, and so their boxes are kind of bigger and bulkier. But we're able to plug all that in on your Shopify store, make sure it looks right, and then still be able to calculate DDP at time of checkout. But yes, we're able to do all that. We save you the need to create manual orders, as that is just not a scalable opportunity there for that. So we're able to save you a little time there with all that.
Great. So can you confirm if DDP works for Walmart, eBay, and marketplace orders fulfilled by ShipBob?
That's a good question, and that's going to be, as far as actually calculating at time of checkout, that would not be something for those 3 that we do currently. With that said, we have APIs. It could be something we look at down the road. We launched this product back in 2017, primarily focused on merchants that were just getting started, and they were selling primarily on Shopify. So that's where we've put the attention up to this point. With that said, we have a lot of focus moving forward on APIs. And so there are absolutely opportunities to expand this down the road to look at shipping on eBay, Amazon, and Walmart via DDP.
Great, thanks. So can you go into the difference between shipping from the US using DDP versus shipping from one of ShipBob's overseas locations? Can you go a little bit more into that?
Yeah, I'll take that one, Drew. So when we look at using one of the overseas locations, let's say you're a US domestic customer and you want to be in the UK. So you're going to set up with a VAT and EORI number. We'll talk about that in person if you need to know what that is. And it sets you up as an entity in the UK. And at that point, you're importing your goods under those information from a tax perspective. And then once you're in there, you're fulfilling those orders from inside the UK as a domestic order. There's no more need for like a duties and taxes because you're within that country domestically, just like you are in the US shipping domestically when you do it today. So when we talk about doing an in-country fulfillment, the reason that we kind of lean towards that direction a lot of times is that initial importation of goods is the only duties and taxes you would pay from into that country. And at that point, for your end customer, you either decide to, like you do today in the US, make their costs, pass it on to that end consumer in that country, or you've eaten that cost because you've paid it in general when you're importing to your other country from there. So when we look at in-country fulfillment, it's really saying, hey, we're getting rid of all these duties and taxes. We're going to make it faster for our customer at the end customer because we're in that country. And you make that conscious effort to be like, I've learned from using DDP that this is going to be a big market for me and I want to expand my sales there even more. So that would be the difference of what an in-country fulfillment is versus DDP, where we're shipping outbound from a home country, assessing duties and taxes on checkout, and those are being collected up front and paid by that end customer.
Great, thanks, Jordan. So a few have been wondering about this. Do you offer any type of simulator where we can tell what charges are going to be required from our customers? So if I'm selling from UK to Japan, this simulator tells me courier fees, duties, VAT, and other landed costs, so we can see the gross cost for each international customer.
Yes. So that sounds kind of like a calculator. And there are definitely calculators out there that you can plug in your information and be able to determine all of those. And I can send a couple of examples of those if that's something you're interested in. We do all of that too, of course, but then we're also actually shipping and handling the product as well. And so if you're looking for just a calculator, there's a couple out there that look exactly at that. So yes, that is an option.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Sorry, I'm trying to see if there's any more questions.
While you look, I'll answer Julie's question here.
Okay.
Why are you called FlavorCloud? That's a great one that I get a lot. And we got ShipBob and we got 9 other ship companies, so we ran out of options for that. But pretty much what it is cloud. We are a cloud-based platform. And then our founders came up with flavor as we're bringing all the different flavors of the world together. And so I'm a fan of calling it something with ship in it or something else like that. But FlavorCloud's cool. I've only mistaken FlavorCloud for Flavortown a couple of times, but I'm sure it'll happen again. But that's okay. So thanks for that question, Julie.
All right, so we have one more question. This is also from Julie. How do we get started? When I started with ShipBob, I had an onboarding specialist. Will you do the same? You walk us a little bit through getting started.
That's a really good question. So we here at ShipBob have a global expansion team, and that is me, my partners Jim Spangler and then Sandra Petrovic. And we can send out here after this call. Actually, it'll be the next slide Brooke's going to pull up. There's a place where you can submit a form, and then we would be in contact with you. Right there it is. And we'll be in contact with you to set you up to talk you through any other questions that you may have. And then from there, we send you to what we call global implementation light, where we put you back through an implementation specialist to make sure everything's set up. In the back end, that implementation specialist is working with FlavorCloud to make sure that things are turned on from their end. That way you still get a seamless process and you're not having to do this all alone again. You have our help here at ShipBob to get this turned on and then to answer any other questions that you would have. So Julie, fantastic question. So that's what we're here to do to help you. And that link on the very first one will get you access to getting that help.
And I will say on the FlavorCloud side, you will have a dedicated customer success manager that works with all ShipBob merchants. And so that's part of our partnership. One voice. I'll be involved as well as need be, but you're going to have very dedicated support on the flavor too. Brooke, I'm seeing a couple of questions on here related to returns. And so I just want to really briefly answer that. We do have a returns API, returns piece as well. I will say for international, it's not, the expectation is not there for returns like you see on the domestic side. They're about 10 times more expensive. And generally, unless you are shipping really expensive items, it tends to not warrant the need to do it. And so we urge everyone to look at this on a case-by-case basis. With that said, we can help ship return products cross-border as well.
Great. Thank you, Jordan and Drew. This was so great. It looks like there are a lot of people excited about our DDP program. So like Jordan said, you can visit product.shipbob.com/DDP and submit a request, and we'll reach out to you to talk more about our shipping solution. And then Jordan and his team are also hosting a bi-weekly live info session. So you can ask any questions that you have about DDP shipping or our program. So it starts this Friday on the 24th at 11 a.m. and that will be bi-weekly. So, sorry, that's bi-monthly, not bi-weekly. And join at events.shipbob.com. So yeah, we hope to see you there this Friday to answer any more questions. And sorry, that actually is bi-weekly. Every other Friday, we will see you there. All right, thank you. And we will also be sending
Thanks,
this
everybody.
email, so keep a lookout. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Take care.